the narrative changes if somebody documents it.
Facts.
And the thing is that we didn't have people documenting it because we were just
documentation,
happy to be
yeah.
around and happy to possibly be around eating. So nobody thought about documenting what was
going
happening in the culture and creating that narrative.
Hey y'all, I'm back. It's Noble, creator of the Museum TV, and I got something real special for y'all. Y'all know we're Boston's premiere vlog, and one of our hugest things is making sure we're celebrating us as a city, as a culture, always. Now, I got my guy Dart Adams here, and the last time me and Dart got together, we were speaking about young versus old and what the disconnect between the Boston OGs and the youth were. And I know I, kind of being sort of in the middle, learned a lot, and it helped me shape the direction of the future of the Museum TV. And, you know, if you haven't watched that interview, please, the link is in the description right below, all right? Now, a lot of great information for Boston creatives and creators in small markets overall. But this time I wanted to dive into Boston's signed talent of the past you more than likely didn't know about. And we honestly had, I would say, like a quote unquote like dark time to me, like in Boston hip hop, where it almost seemed like there was not much going on and like not much documentation for it neither. But Dart Adams is literally our resident like historian, like brother, like really been holding down the culture for like forever. so so you know, like for me, I know it's important to know where things come from if you want to know where they're going. And Dart definitely helps us with that. So, Dart, thanks for cycling back around with me, bro.
No doubt, that's what I'm here for.
My God, man, my God. So we ended up backstage at the LFOD panel talking about this, and we were chopping it up for a while before I realized this is exactly what we need to bring to the people. For people who aren't aware of your resume, you know, just for people just kind of circling around to the Museum TV, could you give them a rundown on your resume? I know it's probably tiring having to do that, bro, but
Nah, it's understandable. There's new generations that come in and out. Not everybody knows my face because I was a Kaiser Sose in Boston for a long time. I'm one of those kids that was around during the late 70s, early 80s, and Boston's a small city, so I was around for like the early initiation of the guys from the Boston Funk All-Stars getting into the industry and making real headway. I'm talking like 1979 into the early 80s. I was around for when New Edition were the Bricks, then became New Edition.
Crazy.
And got won at the Hollywood talent show that Maurice Starr used to put on.
Crazy.
And my cousins lived in OP, you know, so one of my cousins was best friends with Ralph, and my brother and sister used to run around with the kids from the hood, and that included the members of New Edition, you know.
Crazy.
So I was around for that. I was around for all of the early acts that got signed out of Boston, all the early producers that were able to get their foot in the industry and bring everybody in. So that goes up through the 80s and the 90s, which I was around for as a kid in the scene, and it extended until now. So I've literally been around from the inception of Boston actually being a force
To now. So, you know, none but respect, bro. You know what I mean? Like, the amount of stories you've told me, bro, just on our personal is like, you know what I'm saying, mind-blowing. No funny, like, you know what I mean? So, culturally, like, as a city, like, we've brought a lot of offerings to hip-hop that I feel like went under the radar due to the size of our market, where that offering ended up. And honestly, us as a scene sort of maybe, like, shooting ourselves in the foot a bit, too. Can you tell us, like, how we were the ones who brought the Stop Snitching tees to hip-hop?
Okay, so the actual Stop Snitching campaign, people got it twisted what Stop Snitching is. Stop Snitching, I've explained this before, is about a specific instance. Involves people who are in a continuing criminal enterprise to not snitch on each other, to bring them all down. All right? That's what Stop Snitching is about. It stems from the song One in the Chamber from 1992 from Almighty RSO when they were signed to Tommy Boy.
Crazy.
There's a verse on there about snitching and police brutality. And this is before the cop killer controversy popped off and a lot of people got dropped. Why? Because Tommy Boy was distributed by Warner.
Crazy.
But the Stop Snitching campaign was created by my cousin, most people know as Twice Thou, Antonio Marco Ennis, and his cousin. And they, I believe, Tang the Juice, and they came up with the campaign. Mm-hmm. And they made the shirts. And what happened is a lot of people came to Boston, came to the Antonio Saldi store, and they ended up going out in the world with those shirts, and it spread that way. A big way it spread is that Dipset came to Boston specifically. They came to the Antonio Saldi store, bought a whole bunch of tees, wore them in the video. And what happened is they exploded all over the place because everybody saw them in the video.
Yep.
And then Baltimore started making their own Stop Snitching tees. New Jersey, cats started making their own Stop Snitching tees. They popped up in Connecticut. And so everybody started claiming this campaign that started in Boston.
Yeah.
So, like, that's just a crazy story.
Just a FYI for everybody that's going to see this as well. Almighty RSO is from Boston. So all the figures that we're going to talk about is, like, Boston figures, you know?
Mm-hmm. Boston or Massachusetts.
Boston or Massachusetts, exactly, you know? So that's one angle of our offerings, but let's dive into, like, music artists who are signed to majors that we wouldn't know about. Mm-hmm. Can we go down, like, the more, like, prominent ones and, like, you know, like, how, like, certain ones might have been connecting to people we definitely know about?
Okay, so, again, Boston is small, tight-knit. Everybody knows everybody. There's not 6 degrees of separation in the city. It's like 1.5. Mm-hmm. And it's a joke that I'm related to, like, 20% of all brown people in Massachusetts. But the thing is that we start with 1979, the Energetics. Energetics are a group. They have records, songs going back to 73, 74. Classic singles. You Make Me Nothing on Cobra Records. But 1979, they get signed to Atlantic Records. And they put out an LP called Come Down to Earth. Now, it's a funk soul record. It's mostly vocals. And they have, like, funk soul horns and stuff on that, right? Energetics used to be a different group. And what happens is they're part of the Boston Funk All-Stars, is what I'll call them. So a lot of the players that played with the group that became Energetics branched out, and they played on a whole bunch of other records thanks to us. We cannot not mention the Johnson brothers, who were the Johnsons, and later known as the Johnson Crew, and Arthur Baker. Arthur Baker is famous producer. He's also part of the Boston Funk All-Stars. And then they brought in a whole bunch of guys from Johnson Crew. And then you had other producers on the side like Tony Rose. Tony Rose, who owned Solid Platinum Records and put on a lot of people. Then you have Larry Wu Wedgeworth. And then you have Gordon Worthy. So they were Wu and Wedgeworth. And so you have those dudes, Wu and Worthy. Gordon Megabucks Worthy is his name. So Wu and Worthy were big, important guys, and we're going to talk about all those cats, but it's important to know those names. Dwayne Omar. It's important to know all these cats who really were behind a lot of the records. So you start with the Energetics. Then you go to Maury Starr. Maury Starr signs with RCA in 1979. He puts out his album, Maury Starr and then Flaming Star. That comes out. Johnson Crew really gets started around like 1980. They put out their stuff as the Johnsons on Boston International. Mm-hmm. But then they become Johnson Crew later on. And then they sign to Tommy Boy through Tom Silverman. For those who don't know, Tom Silverman started Tommy Boy Records. He started Tommy Boy Records because he was a music journalist and a writer next to Arthur Baker, who he saw producing and making records and helping people with remixes.
Crazy.
The two foremost remixers in music, Tom Moulton, TJM, and a man named John Luongo. These guys both came out of Boston, both did all the funk, soul, disco remixes. And they often used to use Boston Funk All Stars, and also the cats from New York and New Jersey, because they were all part of the same record pool. Okay, so you come down to the Johnson Crew. The Johnson Crew put out the first record on Tommy Boy. They were the in-house producers. Arthur Baker and the Johnson Crew were in-house producers for Tommy Boy. What you'd also need to understand is that Arthur Baker owned his own label. His own label was called Streetwise. Arthur Baker had Streetwise. Johnson Crew had Boston International. Tony Rose had Solid Platinum. And there was another label in Boston in the Massachusetts area called Critique, out in Reading, Mass, I think. So this is all important to know, right? Now, when you produce for people and you write for people and you arrange, you have ends at all these different labels, because everybody needs work. Everybody needs somebody to write. Everybody needs somebody to produce. Everybody needs somebody to arrange. And the Johnsons could do anything.
Damn.
The Johnsons could write, produce, arrange, sing the backgrounds, do the tracking, and have you come in and do it. They could do everything. Little known fact about the Johnsons: at one point, the Johnsons, who were also in-house producers for I just mentioned Tommy Boy, were also in-house producers for Sugar Hill Records.
Crazy.
Sylvia Sugar Hill replaced everybody with the Johnsons in the Boston Funk All Stars for years. They were doing stuff. And then they actually left because they felt like they weren't getting the proper credit on the records and compensation. Then they got compensated, and they built the studio at Boston International, which they recorded New Edition in later. But we'll get to that.
Crazy.
Now,
so you guys hear the succession. Go ahead, dog.
yeah, so we come down to the City Beat Band. The City Beat Band is headed by a man named Prince Charles, young guy. One of the youngest of the Boston Funk All Stars. He's a wonderkind, genius, producer, writer. Prince Charles Alexander was Boston's answer to Prince.
Prince Charles. Okay.
Okay, Prince Charles Alexander is still active, and he's actually a teacher at Berkeley
right?
College Music.
Yeah.
Berkeley College of Music. His story needs to be told, and the Boston Funk All Star story needs to be told. So he was Prince Charles and the City Beat Band. They really get active starting in 1979. They record on Solid Platinum Records. They also record on Boston International. Then later on, they get a major deal through Virgin Records. Now, Prince Charles is big in Europe. So he's big in France, Italy, Germany, and the UK. But he's huge overseas.
Yeah.
So while he has a major label deal and he's making noise over here.
Didn't he work on Biggie's
Yes.
Ready
Yes.
to Die, right?
He worked on several classic albums. The man has plaques upon plaques upon plaques. The story needs to be told. But yeah, he worked on a whole bunch of stuff for he worked with Bad Boy for a long time, and a whole bunch of other labels. He worked with everybody.
Crazy.
So
I actually met him once. I did. I ended up meeting him over at Berkeley. So
yeah, okay.
Exactly. Like so this is somebody that you guys can literally go say hello to, and
yeah,
like
the man has stories, man. New Edition gets signed to Streetwise, which is Arthur Baker's label, through Johnson Crew, who Johnson Crew and Arthur Baker write, arrange, and produce that entire record. The Candy Girl album is the album I'm talking about. So this happens in 1982. The album comes out in 1983. So, of course, there's the lawsuit that everybody knows about when they came back from tour. They sue, they get off the label, and they get signed to MCA to another bad deal. So Streetwise MCA, dead ass. I have the whole thing in a folder in my room. You read it and you won't believe what happened when they were fighting for the rights of their name back, and they lost it and they got it back. They lost it, they got it back, and then they finally were able to retain it. Now,
oh my God, dark man.
So we come down to 1984. RCA signs this group called Ouch. Ouch is discovered by a man named Richard Dimples Fields, but they were a known quantity in Boston. They were headed up by a woman named Margot Thunder, who was part of Margot Thunder and Intrigue, and she was down with two other amazing vocalists. Ouch were so amazing that Richard Dimples Fields discovered them in Boston, and he was like, I need to have them on my album, and Patti LaBelle handpicked them to be her background singers. They put out an album in 1985, 9.9. They had a single. There was a moderate hit, All of Me is All of You. You can find it on YouTube. They were ahead of their time. Also, in 1984, we got the Superiors. The Superiors get signed. They're a Boston act. R&B group, male vocalists. They dominate the talent show circuit. 1984, they put out a record on Critique Records. And then later, they get signed to Motown. They put out the original version of Step by Step, which was later put out by New Kids on the Block. And then they get signed to Columbia later, and they put out an album.
Wow.
So Superiors. Then you come down to Larry Wu. Larry Wu recorded all throughout the 80s. He signed a deal with Atlantic Records in 1984. So he put out a whole bunch of stuff, and he was a producer on the side and a writer. And later he became a manager. So he was just like one of the guys that was like really in the Boston scene that a lot of people know about. Larry Wu. WUWOO, Larry Wu. Then there's Cornell Brown. Cornell Brown, also from this neighborhood. He was a dude that was like right in the neighborhood who knew Prince Charles Alexander. My mom knew him. In 1986, he signed a deal with Next Plateau Records. Then later on, he started Tough Tracks. We're in Columbus Ave. Tough Tracks was at 282 Columbus Ave.
Crazy.
So he used to work.
Seconds away, bro.
Yeah, he used to work with Dwayne Omar, a whole bunch of other guys, and got them in the studio. Was around with Bobby Brown, all this other stuff. So 86, also Atlantic. They signed a Boston girl group who dominated the Boston talent show circuit called Picture Perfect. I think their first single was called Prove It Boy, and they put out an album called Boy Crazy in 1987. The whole city was going crazy for them.
Yeah.
You can't find a video. So they're getting played on the radio. They're doing promotional tours. They have no video.
Wow. Okay.
So just think about that, right? Modern Neek, which is a group with Larry Wu and Gordon Worthy. They get signed to Sire Warner Brothers, which is the same label that has Madonna, same label that has Ice-T, same label that signed BMOC.
Crazy.
So BMOC is consists of half of the guys from the Street Beat radio show who also ended up starting the Source magazine.
Crazy.
So they were signed to Sire. They had like Niall Bernard from.
So the Source started up in Boston.
Yes. The Source started in Cambridge.
Right in Cambridge,
Boston. Yeah,
Crazy.
right in their dorm, right in their dorm, in Harvard.
Crazy.
And so they get signed. Brett Ratner was their manager. Dude from Chic was producing. Bananas, right? So Martinique. We jump to we skip New Kids on the Block. New Kids on the Block get signed to Columbia in 1986. White kids out of Dorchester, following the same format as New Edition.
Yeah.
They were put through the ringer. They were put through the Boston talent show circuit. They were tested. They performed in front of majority Black and Latino crowds. And they used to train down the street at Mission Control, which was, I believe, at 545 Boylston at the time. Mission Control, which was like the studio that they moved to after they recorded in Bill Sebastian's studio, and then they moved to the spot in Roxbury where they recorded. So yeah, that happened. And then 1987, MC Spice becomes the first rapper signed to Atlantic. And he puts out a single called "Don't Treat Your Girlie Like a Dog," which does not do well at all. 1987, Atlantic signs a girl from Brooklyn named MC Light. Okay. And she puts out a single called, I think, I Crammed to Understand You, Sam, which blows up, and everybody forgets about MC Spice. But MC Spice becomes the A&R of the hood, and he comes back later in a big way. We're going to mention his name again. Okay. Oh, what I did skip. What I skipped was 1986. Bobby Brown gets voted out of New Edition.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah.
And he gets signed again. Hiram Hicks from MCA is really big on getting him to sign again and be solo. So he starts him working on his solo material. He puts out the album King of Stage. King of Stage doesn't do well. It really underperforms. And then he goes back to the lab, and that's when they make the 1988 smash Don't Be Cruel. At the same time, New Edition is coming back from a disappointing album Under the Blue Moon. And then they put out the classic Heartbreak by working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. At the time, Bobby Brown was working with L.A. and Babyface and Teddy Riley.
Wow.
So I skipped that.
Listen, if y'all never heard "Don't Be Cruel," man.
If you never heard "Don't Be Cruel,"
you tripping.
I feel sorry for your mothers.
You wildin', right?
So we come down, right, and Ralph Tresvant signs his deal with MCA, puts out Ralph Tresvant LP in 1990, and then he puts out Do What I Gotta Do in 1991. Bell Biv DeVoe signs with MCA in 1989 too. They put out the 1990 album Poison. It blows up. They put out BBD Boot City in 1991 with the Word to the Mother remix where they bring New Edition back in the hood. But 1989, Pauly Dore signs a group.
I think what's kind of blowing me away right now is just like the years and
Yeah.
just how like it seemed like it was like
Yeah.
back to back.
Well,
back,
because
like,
the thing is
crazy.
that the thing that happened was when New Edition and Bobby Brown blew up in 1988, and then New Kids on the Block blew up in 1988. They were dominating not only the sales, but video play, and then touring receipts and merchandise. You got to remember that in 1988, that's when the Heartbreak Tour launches, and New Kids on the Block are touring, and then Bobby Brown's record's blowing up. So quite literally, Boston was running the music industry from summer '88 all the way until 1990. I did a post on Instagram where January 22nd was the 30th anniversary of Bobby Brown winning the 2 major awards at the American Music Awards, and New Kids on the Block won the other 2. And they performed, and they both did medleys. So they like dominated the night. They were the MVPs of the night. And they brought Maury Starr on stage, and Bobby Brown brought his whole crew and his whole family on stage. And like when he was rhyming, he was like, "Hey, yo, this is for Boston," when he did his last verse. So that kicked off a whole lot of stuff where people just sent everybody, every label was represented in Boston, going to every talent show, signing
No lie,
everybody.
somebody needs to find that clip, and somebody who's an artist needs to do something with that. Hey,
I
this is for Boston or
I posted it.
something.
I posted it on my Twitter account.
Yo, this is for Boston. My rhyme hit straight for the 10 back. Freeze and seize while I breeze from my combat.
Yeah, so
Go ahead, bro.
also Finest Hour got signed by Pauly Dore. They were dominating the Boston talent show circuit. In 1989, they made an LP called Make That Move. I think that was the name of one of their singles. 1990, another group, band and group that dominated the Boston talent show circuit, 88, 89, got signed 1990 to Epic Records. So they put out an album, self-titled, called Homework. Perfect Gentlemen get signed by Columbia. They are opening act for New Kids on the Block.
Okay.
So they get signed. They put out a single that kind of blows up, Ooh La La. And then they put out an album called Rated PG. It made some noise. They put out a second album. I think Mass Pike Miles was in the second iteration of Perfect Gentlemen when they put out their album in 1993 on Warner Brothers.
So Mass Pike Miles has been active that long, bro?
Yes, he's been around.
That's
T-Max.
wild.
T-Max got signed to Polygram, Pauly Dore, either in 1990 and 1991.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry to cut you off, Doc, but like, if you don't know who Mass Pike Miles is coming out of the Boston scene, Mass Pike Miles is who had MMG kind of for years, you know. He had French Montana pulling up here, Max B pulling up here, like it was just
chasing Cape Verdean women.
yeah. Go ahead though, Doc. Man, it gets real deep for us, Boston. No lie, it really gets deep for us. It gets real deep for us, Massachusetts as a whole. Like,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Doc.
So 1990, Ed O.G. and the Bulldogs sign with PWL Pauly Dore through the legendary A&R Brian Chin. If you ever heard the song Creativity by Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock, Creativity, Brian Chin. He's the guy that signed them over there. So they put out through Ed O.G. is cousins with Special K and Teddy Ted, who actually were behind signing Nice and Smooth to Fresh Sleeping Bag in 88, 89. So he was hitting them up, yo, try to get me a deal. They send them demos, and they were like, we're not feeling that. Then he sent a demo package that blew them away. Sent it to Brian Chin. They loved it. They got signed. 1991, they put out a classic album out of Boston. They put Roxbury on the map because Roxbury's already been on the map. But as far as rap was concerned, people consider this the coming out party. I Gotta Have It, Bugaboo, Be a Father to Your Child, 3 big, huge rap singles, and the classic Boston rap album finally drops, Life of a Kid in the Ghetto, 1991. So this is a turning point too, because when Ed O.G. puts out the biggest rap song on the planet and I Gotta Have It, and people are saying the name Roxbury,
Say that.
that changed so much. So people are looking at Boston already for the R&B and the soul and the funk. But when they realize, oh shit, rap, like, you can't, it's undeniable. And there were plenty of rap groups here. We had Almighty RSO, been around forever. We had
That's the group that Benzino was in, for those that don't know.
yeah, Ray Dog is for this old folks. You had TDS Mob, who would open up talent shows and blow everybody away, and just like have everybody, like, the act you came to see be on stage. You should be thinking about TDS Mob, you know, Jesus and them 2 DJs just going nuts. And so that happened. Then in 1991, Tam Tam, who was down with R Jam, and Bobby Brown was a big co-signer of Tam, got her signed. So she gets signed to Atlantic. So she puts out a single, Do It, Tam Tam, Do It. Puts out her album, Do It, Tam Tam, Do It, in 1991. Doesn't really do well because it was on the you know, the crossover, spandex, Janet Jackson mic, you know, Running Man thing. But and Tam could spit. And Tam Tam could spit, but you know, it was the crossover, it was the pop rap era. You know, it's post MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice. So that happened. It's crazy that how many more acts I could go through. 1992 classic, well, one person that I did skip, I have to talk about. He passed away. Chris Bender. Okay. Chris Bender out of Brockton. So he gets signed in 1989. And
Brockton, 1989. Huh?
He gets signed to Epic in 1989. It doesn't work out for him at Epic, so he moves over to East West Atlantic in 1991 and puts out an album. His album in 1991 was called Drape. In 1989, his debut album, I think, was self-titled Chris Bender. He was murdered, I believe.
Damn.
And he's a talent that's been missed, you know, since. And unfortunately, he's not the only name I could say that about.
Unfortunately, yeah. Damn.
So
yeah, it's all a part of the history, bro.
Yeah, man. Wild. So we jump back down. 1990, 1991, we got Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch signed in with an Interscope. The people behind Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch getting signed to Interscope include MC Spice.
Who from back? Okay,
yeah. MC Spice, who wrote Feel the Vibration and Wild Side, which were the 2 hit singles from that album. Producing behind the scenes, also shout out Mike Quan Jackson, one of the big people behind the Funky Bunch. That album being a big album for Interscope at the time. Interscope's biggest acts when they first came out were Gerardo, and then Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, and then later Tupac.
Crazy. You
can find interviews with Marky Mark doing interviews. Mark Wahlberg is wearing Tupac gear in all his interviews because he really believes in Tupac and he wanted to get his name out there.
That's wild.
And he was the big guy from Interscope, so he figured if he rocks Tupac gear, that's gonna get him out there. That's crazy to think about.
Damn.
That's wild, bro. So we're up to like 91, 92. We're around here, right? So there's classic example, Boston. Vocal group, male, dominating the talent show circuit. They get a single on a soundtrack on Hollywood Basic, It's All Right, from the film South Central, starring Glenn Plummer, OG Bobby Johnson.
Yeah.
That single and video blows up on BET. That single starts going up the charts, but they don't get a follow-up on a major. They put out their album on Boston International later, 1992. Same thing happens with Lady Soul. Lady Soul gets a single on the Sister Act soundtrack, If My Sister's in Trouble. Get a video on BET. It's on the regular rotation in BET, on Video Vibrations, and then they put it on Midnight Love. I don't know why, but they don't get a follow up on a major. They put out their album Lady Soul in 1992 on Boston International. So there's the Posse soundtrack. The Posse soundtrack comes out, and you have there's Push It Past Red, but then there's I Think to Myself. And so that group, like, they're signed to A&M. The song, it gets played a lot. It gets really big on the rotation, but like it doesn't really blow up. It's unfortunate.
They want to, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but Posse soundtrack, I Think to Myself quite often. So that happens. So Juice with Soul signs to Atlantic in 1993. They put out an album called Body Armor. Body Armor doesn't really make much noise. They don't get a video. They have a single called Gang Lingo featuring Lieutenant Stitchie at a time when reggae and like toasting, having like a reggae feature is big. Mm-hmm. They don't get a video. Then they have another song like Father Like Son, which was, gaining some momentum on in different radio stations, but again, it didn't get any push. Atlantic didn't promote it. So that's one of the other like missed moments for Boston rap.
Got you. Damn.
Funk Master Flex comes to Boston and he signs a group, Joint Ventures. Joint Venture puts out an album, It's the Joint on Profile. What ends up happening though, this is 1993. So what ends up happening is Fly Ty, who's the lead rapper of Joint Ventures, is killed.
Again, this happens. Like it's almost like sometimes it almost feels like some sort of like shadow, bro. Like it's wild.
So that gets halted. But also with Almighty RSO, they lost Rock the Wild Juvenile, after they had just signed a deal, with Tommy Boy, and they were putting out material, and they were working with Paul C, who also gets killed.
Damn.
And then like they try to get a deal with Eazy-E, and when they go to sign the deal with Eazy-E, Eazy-E dies.
Damn.
So it's just like a whole bunch of stuff that happened. Big T passed away too. So there was just like a whole bunch of stuff going on. So Joint Ventures, that happens. Almighty RSO.
Man. R.I.P. the Pioneers.
Yes, man. Almighty RSO, who toiled for years. In 1992, I mentioned they signed their deal with Tommy Boy. They had the single One in the Chamber, He's Gonna Catch It. They get dropped because of the Warner Brothers cop killer controversy that was started by Ice-T. So Warner just dropped everybody controversial, including Paris, whose album is supposed to be called Bush Killer, and then he put it out later under his own Scarface label called Sleeping with the Enemy. But what happens is they jump from Tommy Boy to Flavor Unit. They get signed by Shakim Compare and Queen Latifah. They have the lead single on the Flavor Unit compilation called Bad Boys. A lot of people think it's Roll with the Flavor. Their single actually came out first. Roll with the Flavor is the single that got the really got the traction. But they did an EPK mini documentary that was aired on Rap City. Their video got played a lot on Rap City, got played a couple of times on BET. Outside of Rap City, but it also got played on MTV a couple times, which is big. But ultimately, that doesn't pan out for them, so they leave. They sign with RCA. Mm-hmm. They put out the EP in 1994, Revenge of the Bad Boys. Mm-hmm. And you just know what happens from there, right?
Yeah.
So we've gone through that. Okay, the B Brown Posse. So Bobby Brown has his deal with MCA. So he's been super successful at MCA, so he decides to put out his own acts. Just like Biv has Biv Entertainment, which most people know is Biv 10. It started out as Biv Entertainment, and he had his deal with Motown.
Yeah.
Biv was keeping the lights on at Motown. He brought them Another Bad Creation, bringing in plaques. He brings them Boys the Men, brings them in even more plaques. Then brings them MC Brains, which brings them more plaques.
So, all right. So
yeah,
that's Boys to Men, bro.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Go ahead.
But you just think about how much revenue was generated by Another Bad Creation, Boys to Men, and MC Brains at a time when Motown had nothing going on.
Yeah.
So Biv is the guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy. And not only that, but he finds talent on the production side. So he brings in this dude from Atlanta. And later on, what ends up happening is that same guy ends up producing for TLC, and he becomes famous. but he also got signed to LaFace because they put out an album for his group Highland Place Mobsters. I'm talking about Dallas Austin.
Yeah, Dallas.
And Dallas
yeah,
Austin
of
later
course.
had a label called Rowdy on Arista. So he had a label and he blew up and he was producing hits before Jermaine Dupri was in Atlanta. He had his own studio, DARP.
Yeah, it was Dallas first, right?
Yeah, it's Dallas first.
Yep.
And this is a guy Biv gave a shot to. He was discovered by Finderella Irby from Climax.
Boston, what up?
Yeah, so you go from there, and then Bobby Brown, of course, has the B Brown Posse album. His sister, I believe, his sister Coop B, was signed, and he also has Styles. Now, what a lot of people don't know is Styles was featured on Humping Around. He had a single called Bounce that was really big. What a lot of people don't know is that at the time, the NBA was trying to figure out a way to reach out to minority audiences, again, younger audiences, because the 90s, there was a new wave of players. So they had a show Inside Stuff, and they used to play videos and stuff like that. Then they started putting out VHS tapes, to try to bridge the gap between the young cats like Shaquille O'Neal, Alonzo Mourning, Chris Webber, that whole generation of young talent, that grew up like with hip hop. So what happened is Styles puts out a song called Bounce that's tailored to the NBA. They put it in their new campaign. It's all over TV. It's all over the VHS tapes. Bell Biv DeVoe, their second album, Hootie Mac, they do a song called Above the Rim that's tailored to the NBA. So, and then B Brown Posse's Drop It On The One is also basketball themed. So there was a time when Boston had provided the entire soundtrack for the NBA relating to young people.
Crazy.
1993, right? So it's bananas when you think about that.
Bro, like this is like just so many gems that's like come out of the city, and again, just the lack of documentation. I feel like, bro, is crazy.
Well, the lack of documentation is literally because none of these acts really were able to get the push and blow up and have that sustained success. I mean, Ralph Tresvant's first album did really well. His second album, Doing What I Gotta Do, did not do well. The second BBD album, Hootie Mac, did not do well.
Yeah, I didn't even know about Hootie Mac. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Hootie Mac didn't do well. Show Me the Way, the single Gangsta, which they put out straight on MTV to premiere, it didn't do well.
Yeah.
So what happened is a lot of these acts that were signed by labels, the labels just put them up there as like, let's see what happens. Throw shit at the wall.
Yeah.
And when it didn't stick, it didn't stick,
They just keep it pushing.
they just kept it pushing. So a lot of people were signed to deals, and nobody talks about them. But like Here and Now, perfect example. Here and Now signed in 1993 to Atlantic again, Third Stone Atlantic. They feature the legendary Wyatt Jackson. They put out an album in 1993 called I Can Deliver. Both of their videos, Are You Ready? And I can't remember the name of the other one. Both got a lot of burn from the Unseen VJ on Video Soul. Not Video Soul. Damn, I can't remember the name of the show. It got a lot of burn on BET, that show, but past that show, it couldn't really get enough burn on BET. Never got any MTV rotation. Got played on a couple of like local cable access shows.
Yeah.
Like Strictly Hip Hop. Shout out to Albert Farland. But other than that, it couldn't really gain too much traction. Like if you go on YouTube and try to look up Here and Now videos, you're gonna be in like good luck. But
It's just wild, man.
yep. So Ruffa gets signed to MCA in 1995. He puts out his album in 1996, Diamond in the Ruffa. He put out a single, Representing, featuring Cool G Rap. That really should have made a lot more noise. It's funny, it's sad that a lot of people don't even know about that song. But like Ruffa's, I believe his song is called You Don't Have to Worry. But it got a lot of burn on BET. Video Vibrations. Not Video Soul, Video Vibrations. That was the name of the show. It got played on Video Vibrations. It got played a couple times on Video LP.
Yep.
I think it got, maybe got played on MTV maybe twice on Yo MTV Raps. But other than that, it didn't really make much headway. And as far as like 1979, 80 to 94, 95, that's it.
That's
and the thing is that I just
bro.
ran down a whole.
That was
of cats.
intensive, bro.
Yeah.
That was extensive, bro.
And the thing is that this is a list off the top of my head. This isn't a comprehensive list.
Yeah.
This is just what I remember from the era.
These are the highlights.
Yeah, this
these
is
are
what I
the
remember from the
highlights
era.
of highlights.
There were probably other cats that I left out, which is unfortunate. That were signed to majors,
Yeah.
or signed to independent labels that then ended up on majors that I left out. I feel like I got most of the
These
people.
are like it sounds like these are really like turning point moments though for the scene. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
but the thing is, unfortunately, nothing really stuck.
Yeah.
So the narrative is that we never had anything and nothing ever happened.
quote unquote.
When I can remember, there were times when we had like 5 acts signed to majors at the same time. But here's the difference now. When you have a bunch of acts signed to a major from a city, they'll be in each other's videos. They're going to be bigging each other up. They're going to be doing this and this. At the time, a lot of people didn't want to focus on somebody being from Boston because they thought that would be a detriment to their marketability. As opposed to a selling point.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that a lot of these cats I named, a lot of these acts I named, never got videos.
Yeah.
I mentioned Picture Perfect,
Yeah.
signed in 87. There's no video for Picture Perfect.
Shit, wow.
9.9, they had a video. Martinique, try to find a Martinique video. Perfect Gentleman had videos, LG and the Bulldogs definitely had videos. Classic example, I think they have 1 or 2 videos. Chris Bender, try to find a Chris Bender video.
Crazy. It's this homie from Brockton, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Try to find a Chris Bender video. Find a Juice with Soul video. You can't find a Juice with Soul video. Joint Ventures got 1 video. It's the joint. B Brown Posse's album, Drop It on the One, has a video. Styles has a video for Bounce, but it might be hard to find. Here and Now, I mentioned them. They might have videos out there. Are You Ready should be out there. I don't know about the other videos. Roughest video should be there.
Okay.
But
That's the record with Cool G Rap, right?
yeah, well, the video that actually got made is the laid back one with that's made after the Guy song, Piece of My Love.
Okay.
Doom, 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 doom. But you can find like that song on YouTube definitely representing. But like the Superiors don't have a video.
That's so crazy. Man.
They scrubbed the step-by-step version from the Superiors made in 1987 from YouTube.
They scrubbed it for.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Because the one that exists is the step-by-step by New Kids on the Block. So when we sit here and we talk about the narrative and why people don't know, like
there's enough proof right there. Like there's enough proof in the pudding. Like right there.
There's a reason why we don't know.
Yeah.
Like I can go to a record store, a local record store, and pull up an album and see the cover, and I remember when it came out.
We gotta have like these types of conversations. Like this is why I appreciate you doing this, like for real. Cause like again, like all of this like new energy that like we see like in the scene now, like we need to make sure that or help it as much as possible that the same thing doesn't happen.
Yeah. But like the big difference is visibility. So like the city would go nuts when somebody got signed and come out to their record release party and be huge. But then where was the noise after that? Like the city could be behind it, but everybody else got to be behind it. The label has to push it. It has to be visible. Donna Summer was huge, but Donna Summer also went through a different route.
Yeah.
Donna Summer went through Germany and Italy, and then the disco scene, and then signed with like one of the most renowned producers,
Yeah.
So when she blew up in 1975, it wasn't because, and no one was talked about her being from Boston, but she blew up from Boston, but from somewhere else.
All right. So definitely a huge information dump, like a huge information dump. But like at the same time, like this is literally like a representation of where we've come from as a city, why things have gone the way they've gone. And these are things I feel like a lot of artists like need to know.
Yeah.
You know, like so like a video like this, bro, I feel like it's something that, you know, I hope people will be using on for years and years and years. You
Like,
know,
one thing I
'Cause
always wanted to
the
do-
information isn't gonna change.
One thing I always wanted to do is I had dreamed of having like an exhibition of just album covers, single covers
Yeah.
of artists that were signed and out here and doing things in the Boston Talent Show circuit that got out there and made moves and stuff like that, and like clippings from like Billboard and like all these other like magazines and stuff like that, and just get the information out there like, yo, these Boston acts were moving. And like these Boston producers were like doing stuff. Like, perfect example, something that I didn't mention, right? The last group that I have on this list is a group called Faja, because Faja really got signed 96, 97.
Okay.
But Faja was in the scene in the early 90s as Not Your Average Girls.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not Your Average Girls is the group that should have had the deal that went to the group that became TLC. So LA and Babyface made a call to Larry Wu, talking about they were looking for a girl group to sign, because at the time they had the major label had a group in the wings, and this is gonna be a crazy story. There used to be talent showcases, and there used to be two groups that used to come out at the top, two girl groups. One was a group from Maryland called the Braxton Sisters, and the other one was Not Your Average Girls. The Braxton Sisters got signed to a label. They put out a white label, and the thing was the label really wanted the lead singer, Tony, to go solo. So they didn't really move on the Braxton Sisters like that. But LaFace wanted a girl group because...
Tony Braxton, if you guys haven't put two and two together yet.
Yeah, it's Tony Braxton. So so they want a girl group. So they think about, yo, which girl group showed up at all the showcases? The other one signed. We have them. So let's get the other one. So they're like, yo, so we want to have y'all come in to, LaFace have a meeting or what have you. He's like, nah, LaFace doesn't have nothing. At the time, LaFace had Jermaine Jackson. They were about to sign Highland Place Mobsters, which is Homie's group. But, they didn't do anything. And they had a group called Damien Dame, which both members passed away. They had some like R&B hits, but like they weren't gonna cross over. They weren't gonna do anything big. So they were like, LaFace ain't got nothing. So they didn't even take the meeting. What happens is Pebbles, Homie's wife, had Peppertone Management, and she brought in a group at the time, I think it was called Third or Second Nature, and they replaced the girl with one of the dancers from another group, Razonda, who became Chili.
Crazy.
And that group became TLC. And now, could you imagine the members of Not Your Average Girls watching TLC blow up,
Crazy.
looking at their management like,
you guys,
real? Really?
Oh my God.
So they end up breaking up. Half the group, they get other members, and they reform as Faja. And they get a deal later as on Warner Brothers. PHAJJA.
So the list was from, and just to reiterate, it was from 79 to basically 95, right?
79, 80 to 94, 95. But they were after the cutoff. But I just had to mention them because there were another group that was in there, like 91, 92, 93.
Moving around.
Yeah. So, like, if you were around in the scene, Not Your Average Girls, And also, like, Free, a.k.a. Marie Antoinette. Everybody knows her from back in the days, too.
Yeah.
Grinding on the scene, the R-Jam days. So there was so much talent. People know about Che Guevara.
106 in Park for you guys, just so y'all know.
Everybody knows about Che Guevara, a.k.a. Che Pope, who went to college in Virginia, ended up becoming one of Teddy Riley's understudies, mentees, and then Che Pope ends up becoming the guy behind a lot of stuff that happened with the Refugee All-Stars, Wyclef, Praz, Lauryn Hill, and, then he ends up the head guy at Good Music.
Crazy.
Straight out of Roxbury.
Straight out of Roxbury,
Big
man.
Chuck.
Good music, man.
Big Chuck,
Yo, bro.
Big Chuck, who was part of the Body Rock crew with my cousin back when he was Emo E. before he joined Almighty RSO after Orange Man left. Big Chuck ended up becoming instrumental with Death Row.
Crazy.
So there's a whole lot. You got G Spin. You got G Spin. There's so many people from the industry. You think of Maury Starr, right? Maury Starr created the boy band blueprint. He created the boy band blueprint between New Edition and New Kids on the Block. And what happens is guys like Lou Pearlman came along,
Lou Pearlman with
and he ran with that formula. And people gave Lou Pearlman the props they should have properly given to Maurice Starr. And people don't give credit to Michael Johnson and all the stuff that he did. But the thing is, it's about the narrative, right?
Yeah.
When you look at Def Jam, why did Def Jam blow up and get out there and create, that noise, whereas Tommy Boy didn't? It all comes down to one thing, and this is the last thing I'm going to leave y'all with. There was a dude named Bill Adler. Bill Adler was working in Boston as a music journalist and working on the radio. Bill Adler ends up leaving Boston and moving to New York to take a job with Def Jam as their PR agent and their publicist. He's the guy that got them in every newspaper, every publication, had them out there, told them, yo, when y'all sell or y'all do something, make sure you get that in Billboard, make sure you take a picture, make sure you put that in the trades, make sure you get out there, make sure you put this ad here, make sure you're seen. He was in people's faces like, yo, you want to do an article on rap? This is the person you need to talk to. He runs Rush. He manages the 15 top rap acts. You have to talk to him.
Wow,
Def Jam, before Def Jam even had their distribution deal on Columbia, Def Jam was a name synonymous with the culture because of what Bill Adler did. Now imagine if Bill Adler, instead of going to Def Jam, started working with Tommy Boy, with the guys that he knew, that he covered in Boston from the Boston Funk All-Stars. Imagine how different the narrative would have been. Crush Groove exists because Bill Adler got the word out about them, and also because it was off the piggybacking of the Fresh Fest, which Bill Adler also really was instrumental in getting out there, the publicity. So the narrative changes if somebody documents it.
Facts.
And the thing is that we didn't have people documenting it because we were just happy to be around and happy to possibly be around eating. So nobody thought about documenting what was happening in the culture and creating that narrative.
Man, and this is why this is like just so important. I'm beyond happy you ended off with that, Dart. Cause like end of the day, like before you go saying, you're gonna put on for your city, make sure you actually are proud of where you come from, like, and that's like a big thing, So like knowing all these, like you said a lot today that we I for sure didn't know about.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that the other people that are gonna be taking gems out of these, and just being able to run with the Dart. But I just have just one last question, just to end things off. Like I understand that we're doing better as a scene now, like as a city, things seem real cohesive, bro. Like I absolutely love it. But where do you what advancements have you seen this time around that may not maybe have shown themselves, prior?
Well, this is a completely different era.
Yeah.
People are far more cognizant of what's happening than they were. Again, back in the days, people were just happy to be on, Like being signed to a major was a big deal, Everybody in the city was celebrating you. And if there was 1, 2, 3 of you. So it got to be a point where it's like, again, everybody signed, everybody got deals. But the thing is that nobody clicked up, got together, and pushed this thing like, oh, let's do an article, or let's do a piece, or let's do this thing for television about all this Boston talent, Or let's make it a point to like get everybody together.
In other places,
and push this. Because everybody took it for granted after, New Edition and Bobby Brown and New Kids on the Block blew up, that this would be something that would exist forever, or that somebody else would blow up and continue it. That didn't happen. Now, everybody's very aware of that narrative not existing.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to break out of that. So if you like something that I saw at the Boston Music Awards this year was everybody was very aware that something special was happening.
Yes. Within the scene.
Yes,
Like,
within the
it's
scene.
Crazy.
It was like when you watch a Celtics game and they're on a big run, they're on an 18-0 run, the crowd starts sensing it. When that three goes up, people stop standing up and putting their hands up. You know, the bench is going crazy. The crowd's going crazy. The coach is like, go, 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 you know? So that's what was happening with the scene where everybody is just like, oh, this is something special. You feel it,
Yeah,
you know?
facts. It's
Everybody's
crazy.
about to like explode, like something special is happening and everybody recognizes it. Back in the days, people just weren't really that aware of it. It was like dope that we watched the American Music Awards and Bobby Brown and New Edition and New Kids on the Block are winning awards and Ralph Tresvant blows up and Belle Biv DeVoe has Poison. But at no point did we think that we needed to control this narrative.
Yeah.
Because 20, 30 years later, people would think that nothing ever happened or just think it was just those groups.
It's just crazy. Dart, we're gonna end off, bro.
Yeah.
I appreciate this 100%, man. You know, like
I'm
so
sorry
much
for filling up
information.
all your memory cards, man.
Yeah, exactly what happened, guys. No lie, my man filled up my memory card.
Boop. There we go again. Shut the fuck
Oh
up.
man. But nah, Dart, if you could tell people where they can find you, keep up with your work, because I know you're consistently just spitting facts to the people.
Yeah, so basically I'm old, so you can find me in two places, Twitter and Instagram, and they're both at Dart_Adams, capital D, capital A. I have a book called The Book of Dart, Best Damn Hip Hop Writing, The Book of Dart. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Barnes & Noble. Look at Libris. You'll find a good price for it. It's available on Powell's. Yeah, man.
And the book's moving. The book's moving. He's
yeah.
real humble right now. But the book's moving for my guy.
Independent book. It's currently in 2 colleges right now, being used in their curriculum: Butler in Indiana and Johnson C. Smith University in Cackalack. So those 2 spots, but I'm hoping to expand it to more places. It's an independent book, so. You know,
man,
this
support my guy,
is all
man.
happening through word of mouth. I don't have a publicist. I don't have a literary agent officially yet. So anybody who buys the book or writes a review about it, that's huge. It's spreading through word of mouth. Like it's organic.
Big fact.
You
Big
know?
fact. My guy, man. Yo, it's the Museum TV. You know we're huge on our culture. We love our culture. We love where we come from. You know what I mean? And we're trying to make sure, you know, we putting out our story.
Dude, we're doing this from my living room.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like this is real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I came to my guy to get this information for y'all. I came to
This
him.
is where I write and do my research.
You know what I mean?
Like he's seeing all my notes right now.
You know what I'm saying? Like notes on notes, no funny. I'll actually even get y'all a B-roll, so y'all know I ain't playing.
Handwritten, by the way.
But yeah, man, look, the Museum TV, Boston's premiere vlog. Look, we're 6 this year, guys. You know what I'm saying? 6 years of just creating content for the city and just continuing to do so. This is really for y'all. Like, this is really for us to continue to propel ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Look, until next time, please make sure y'all subscribe, leave comments. Any questions, like this video. You know what I'm saying? Share with your friends. You know what I mean?
Please
Like,
share with your friends.
Like this information is huge. Like, you know, like this information is huge. And I thank Dart once again for giving it. Yeah, man. Look, catch up with this, man. I ain't gonna talk too much more.
I did enough of that.
Hey, it's Noble, creator of the Museum TV, and I just wanted to thank you for tuning into Boston's premiere vlog. If you like this video, please leave us a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. I'll leave a few other videos around here for you, just so you can see how we're exhibiting the culture stories.